Right now, researchers at INGV are tracking the June seismic swarm with unusual precision. Most quakes remain shallow, between 1.5 and 3 kilometers, the same depth range where hydrothermal pressure has been building for years. GPS stations around Pisciarelli continue to detect uplift, rising roughly 10-15 millimeters per month, matching the long-term trend recorded since 2005. This uplift isn't random. Scientists link it to the pressurization of the geothermal system beneath Solfatara and Pisciarelli. That pressure rises, escapes, reorganizes the cracks underground, then rises again. A cycle documented in every major INGV bulletin. But here's the detail that has experts paying attention. Seismic energy is clustering tighter than before, forming a narrow zone beneath. So the real question is, why is the system focusing energy into such a small area now? And what does that shift mean for residents living directly above it? Thermal cameras installed around the Pisciarelli Fumarole field show expanding high-temperature zones. Not explosive hotspots, but gradual widening caused by increased steam flow. These imaging systems capture real-time rises in surface temperature that correspond to deeper hydrothermal movement. INGV reports note that the strongest quake in the swarm, magnitude 3.2, produced peak ground accelerations up to 0.18 G in the immediate zone, strong enough to be felt clearly, but still within the range of typical Campi Flegrei unrest. Geochemists are also monitoring gas output. SO2 and CO2 levels remain within the expected patterns for bradysism, yet the ratio between them has shown subtle fluctuations, a sign that the fluid pathways underground are shifting. So the critical question becomes, if these pathways continue to reorganize, could a new fumarole open in an unexpected location, the same way historical vents appeared during past uplift phases? Geologists, reviewing deformation data from Wright, Sulf, and Axide GPS stations, have noticed a subtle but consistent pattern. Horizontal movement is increasing slightly more toward the southwest, while vertical uplift remains steady across the central caldera. This directional shift matters because it can hint at how underground pressure is redistributing historically. When Campi Flegrei showed similar patterns, such as during the late 1983 bradysismic phase, small structural weaknesses near fumarole fields became more active. At Pisciarelli, ground tilt meters have recorded micro-tilts that align with the seismic clusters detected in the last swarm. These tilts are tiny, but they match the same pressure trends highlighted in INGV weekly bulletins. If pressure continues to migrate along this path, the system could be preparing new exit routes for steam and gas. So that raises an important question. Are we watching the early steps of a new hydrothermal channel carving its way upward? Gas flux stations around Solfatara and Pisciarelli show CO2 release increasing during swarm days, then returning to baseline afterward. One of the classic signs of hydrothermal recharging rather than magmatic intrusion. These fluctuations are supported by satellite thermal imagery, which confirms a slight enlargement of warm zones near active vents, but no abnormal anomalies outside the known fields. Seismologists emphasize that the swarm's depth distribution, mostly between 1.8 and 3.2 kilometers, is consistent with pressurization of the upper hydrothermal layer. Another key detail: acoustic sensors have picked up short-duration gas pulses right after some seismic bursts, meaning cracks are opening and closing rapidly as pressure adjusts. INGV stresses that none of this indicates imminent eruption. It indicates dynamic unrest that needs monitoring. But here's the critical thought. If gas pulses consistently follow seismic bursts, could that mean the system is testing multiple micro-pathways at once, searching for the easiest escape route? Ground deformation measurements from Pisciarelli show that horizontal movement toward the southwest continues subtly but consistently, while vertical uplift remains stable. Geologists note that even minor shifts can signal pressure redistribution along weak structures in the caldera floor. Tilt meters confirm these small changes align with the ongoing seismic swarm, suggesting energy is migrating toward potential new pathways for gas and steam. INGV emphasizes that these are early warning signals, not eruption triggers. Gas monitoring data reveals repeated CO2 and H2S flux spikes coinciding with the Pisciarelli swarm events. Satellite thermal cameras show slight expansion of warm zones around active vents, but no new surface anomalies yet. Acoustic monitoring detects rapid micropulses following seismic tremors, suggesting the hydrothermal system is actively adjusting pressure in localized fractures. INGV notes that such behavior is typical of dynamic caldera unrest and requires constant observation. Question for viewers: if these micropulses represent the system testing new pathways, how soon could they evolve into visible surface activity? Seismic tomography imaging shows shallow magma pockets beneath Pisciarelli, indicating pockets of pressurized fluids accumulating along pre-existing fractures. The shallow swarm aligns with these zones, confirming energy is concentrating near potential vent site. Experts warn that while no eruption is imminent, these conditions create a high alert scenario for sudden steam releases or small Friedrich explosions. Local authorities are monitoring population zones for unusual gas emissions, as even minor incidents could pose health hazards. Question for viewers: could these concentrated shallow magma pockets be silently preparing a new surface vent before anyone realizes it? Recent thermal webcam images show temperature anomalies near Pisciarelli increasing by several degrees over the past week, hinting at intensified subsurface heat flow. Microgravity studies suggest slight mass changes consistent with rising fluids in localized conduits. INGV scientists highlight that these subtle shifts, combined with seismic swarms and gas spikes, form a pattern seen before minor vent activity in calderas worldwide. Emergency monitoring systems remain fully active, with alerts ready should conditions escalate. Question for viewers: if these rising heat zones mark the start of a new fumarole, how quickly could visible activity emerge? New INGV measurements show that ground uplift at Pisciarelli has slightly accelerated over the past week, with tilt meters detecting vertical movements of a few millimeters. While minor, these changes correspond directly with the ongoing shallow seismic swarm, indicating energy is steadily migrating along previously dormant fractures. Gas sampling continues to record elevated CO2 and H2S levels, particularly near the fumarole clusters, which could pose local health risks if released suddenly. Thermal imaging confirms hotspots maintaining higher temperatures than surrounding areas, suggesting increased hydrothermal circulation. Scientists are emphasizing the importance of continuous monitoring, as even small-scale events could escalate without warning. Question for viewers: could these combined signals be the calm before a new phase of surface activity, right under the feet of thousands of residents? The INGV team has deployed additional sensors and webcams around Pisciarelli to ensure real-time tracking of seismicity, gas emissions, and thermal anomalies. Data shows that fractures previously quiet are now subtly vibrating in sync with the main swarm, suggesting the potential development of a new fumarole pathway. Experts warn that while no eruption is imminent, these early signs require heightened vigilance, particularly for nearby residents and infrastructure. Historical comparisons show that similar patterns often precede minor Friedrich events in calderas like Campi Flegrei. Question for viewers: if a new fumarole emerges here, what could it mean for the surrounding communities? And how prepared are we really? Stay informed and safe. Hit subscribe to get all the verified updates from Campi Flegrei as they unfold.